I'm Reverend Dr. Andriette Earl. My pronouns are she and her. Look, a part of me thinks I have on the cap because the top of my head has already blown off. And I felt like I didn't want to scare y'all with just the top of my head hanging loose. Oh, Father, Mother, God. So I'm supposed to be here right now to introduce my beloved brother friend, Dr. Shawn Ginwright. But I'm going to ask you to read his bio on the app. Because what I want to do is to actually connect some key dots that I think will make a difference to me in seeing like the whole picture. So let's see if this will work. I want to start with, and I don't want to scare anybody, a bit of scripture. I don't want to scare anybody. I know y'all get scared easy, but just kind of rock and roll with me right here. In Matthew 7, it talks about, I only want to make this point. This is like verse 15 or 16, by their fruits ye shall know them. By their fruits ye shall know them. So if you were here on the opening night, when Reverend Demet Jenkins was here from the International African American Museum, if you were here when you heard Dr. Sonny, our spiritual leaders, speak, if you were here and heard the executive team speak, if you were here last evening for the pouring of libation, what? If you were here moving with the dancers as the African drums were playing, if you heard the speakers and then sang along with the Gullah Geechee singers, I'm certain that the earth shifted on its axis. What you might not know is that you've been feasting on the fruits of Dr. Shawn Ginwright. You might not understand how these dots are all connected. Because here's what I know. I know that back in the summer of 2022, when I was serving on the Ministers' Council at the time, and we had just completed our visioning for the 2022 Ministers' Gathering. And while we were unpacking the vision, I'm listening and we're taking notes and we're talking about it, and all of a sudden I just throw up my finger and say, wait, hold up, I'll be right back. Because I knew I didn't have my copy of the 4 pivots right there in front of me. Ran downstairs, grabbed it, read, I said, wait, y'all have to hear this, read a passage. And they're like, what you reading? I shared with them, and we then knew we had to see if Shawn could be with us for the Ministers' Gathering. By their fruits ye will know them. So we did that here, just kind of cutting to the chase here. So Dr. Shawn was then our keynote for the Ministers' Gathering in 22. That evolved to a book study for ministers in 2023. That evolved to having him be a part of the speakers series and on Zoom with Q&A. So we had an up close and personal opportunity. Out of that came the 4 Pivots book study for everybody. And then he was named our 2023 spiritual hero. By their fruits, ye will know them. Dr. Shawn has generously poured into the evolving psyche of Centers for Spiritual Living, and we are all the better for it, Shawn. And he's our keynote tonight. I'm grateful to you, Shawn. I'm so grateful to you for your contribution and your blessings to Centers for Spiritual Living. There is so much more to know, but again, I'm referring you to the app. One thing that's not noted in the app, though, is that a little earlier this month, Dr. Shawn was invited by the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, to speak at the White House Youth Policy Summit on the ecosystem of well-being as it relates to youth and the systems with which they interact. By their fruits, ye will know them. Bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, Shawn is the real deal. What you see, what you read is what you get. Shawn, you walk your talk. And for that, too, I am grateful that he is walking and talking with us tonight. And before we hear from Dr. Shawn, we'll have an opening prayer. Shawn has asked his beloved sister friend, Jennifer Johns, who is a powerhouse vocalist, a songwriter, a producer, an activist, and an entrepreneur who creates sounds and experiences that stir your soul, show enough. Yes, those of you who know, say something. Yes, okay. Inspires your mind and to move your body. Jen has taken her brand of Afro world music all over the globe, rocking stages from Denver to Dusseldorf, Los Angeles to London, Kuala Lumpur to Kampala. She has shared lineups with some of the best in the business. Currently, she's focused on the release of 2 bodies of music, God Speak, which is an album of mantras that she has translated into Swahili, and Jennifer Johns Live at the New Parish, an album she recorded directly after quarantine in Oakland, her hometown. In addition, Jen is growing and connecting her community through the Fun Manifesto, a lifestyle and sustainable ecosystem powered by art and culture. You can find out more about her and her music at jenjohns.com. But for right now, you'll find out about her as she comes to the stage. And right after that, following that, Dr. Shawn Ginwright.
I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice and take joy, my Queen, in what you hear. Let me be the sweet, sweet, sweet sound in your
Wow. I am so deeply humbled to be in your presence. I feel like I'm part of a family conversation. I want to start with just giving thanks to God for the wisdom that has been bestowed upon me. I want to give thanks to the CSL community. This journey of writing this book, this journey of being able to share these ideas has changed my life. I want to give particular thanks to Reverend Dr. Andrea Earl, my spiritual leader, to Deb Kersey, who magically found the time in my calendar so that I could write this book, for Jennifer Johns, who actually encouraged me to write another book, to my wife, my queen, my best friend, Nedra, who is on a girls' trip right now that was planned 2 years ago. And to, most people have one mama. I have three, and they're listening right now. Hey, mama. My mom, who is the best friend to my father, William Ginwright, who passed away not long ago. To my auntie, Sylvia Ginwright, who introduced me to Ernest Holmes' teaching in 1975, when I was just a kid. And to my dear aunt, Joyce, who has encouraged me deeply to pursue the magic of knowledge and reading. Writing this book was a lot easier than it was practicing the principles. It seems to me that God has a sense of humor, because after I wrote the book, I feel like this journey for me to practice these pivots has been right center before me, right? From moving from a comfortable job that I've had for years in Oakland, California, to having to move across country, to all kinds of challenges in my life, that practicing the pivots have been a lot harder than writing this book. I want to start with a story that grounds me, reminds me who I am and what my purpose on this place, Earth, is. And it's a story about my mama, and some of you may have heard it before, but I'm going to tell it again. My mama grew up in a place called Trenton, Florida, where part of my family lives there outside of Gainesville. And as a child, I grew up outside of Los Angeles. As a child, it would be in the hot summer, my mother would tell me and my brothers these magical stories about her childhood of growing up in this place called Trenton, Florida. She used to tell us about this magical little house that she grew up in, and she would tell us stories about going into the backyard and picking mangoes off the tree in this magical little house. And she would tell stories about how when she was a child, there was a little creek they would play in. And I remember she would always tell us stories about there was these little bugs that glowed in the dark, right? And then outside of LA, we never seen nothing like that. So when my mother told me and my brothers these stories, we were enchanted, man. Like, we were just so enthralled by the magic of her childhood. And as I got older, deep inside, me and my brothers always wanted to see that little house that she grew up in. It wasn't until I was older, as a professor, in fact, about 10 years ago, my uncle in Trenton passed away, and my mother decided to go to the funeral. And you know how mamas are. She said she wanted me to go to the funeral. I'm like, Mom, I got work to do, and I got papers to grade, and I got that. And she said, boy, if you don't get your narrow butt on this plane and bring your butt to Trenton, Florida. So I did what my mama asked me to do, and I got on the plane, and I went, and I'm so glad that I did. Because I went to meet my cousins, and my mama is so proud, my son, the doctor, right? So we would go to my cousin's house, and we would sit on the couch with the plastic. Y'all remember the plastic? Some of y'all still got plastic covers. If y'all got plastic covers on your couch, it's okay. You can take it off now. And your good furniture ain't gonna get dirty. We would sit there and sip tea and drink, and deep inside, I wanted to see this magical little house that my mother had always told me about. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, Mama, I want to meet the cousins, but can we go see this house? And she said, okay, let's go take a look at the house. And so we walked down the street and we turned left on a dirt road. And it was magical. And I actually saw these trees as I was in the taxi here. These trees canopied the road, and the moss was hanging off the trees, and it was enchanting and magical. And it was in the evening, it was in the evening, and the sun was setting. It was beautiful, and we walked silently down this road, and I looked off to the left, and sure, there was this little creek, and I could see these little lightning bugs hovering above the water. And we continued to walk a little further, and my mother stopped, and she turned around and smiled. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what are you smiling at? She said, we're here. And when I turned and looked at the house, my heart dropped, because I didn't understand why she was smiling. And so when I turned, this is what I saw. It wasn't really a house that I had in my dream, in my own imagination. It was a shack. But my mother saw something entirely different, y'all. She took my hand and took me into that little house, and she showed me, okay, let me take this off. She showed me every nook and cranny of that house, and she took me to this one area, the little house with a little ring in it. And she said, this is where we used to have the number 10 tub. And now, y'all know what a number 10 tub is? Because I didn't know what a number 10 tub is. And she said, this is where we used to take a bath, because we had to heat up the water. And she showed me the pot-belly stove. And all the time, my mother was so happy, like a child at Disneyland, and I was so sad, because I didn't know my mama had grown up with such poverty, y'all. And she could see that I was moved, that I was sad, and I kind of started to cry, man, like, damn, Mom, you didn't tell me this. And she said something that I'll never forget. She said, boy, what's wrong? And I said, Mom, I just didn't know you grew up with such poverty. And she said, boy, don't you cry. Don't you know it is in this house that I dreamed of you before you even existed? And for you to come back here is a realization of my dreams. And from that moment on, I knew that my mother understood poverty, but she was not defined by it. That there was something about the inside journey, about her capacity to see me so that I could go back there, that she created me before I even existed. And so it is in that space that this idea that the journey of our inside and how we think about each other and how we can imagine a world that does not yet exist, even if the one that we're in is not ready. The book that I wrote was really a book for me, y'all, because it was really giving myself some permission to be someone different. You know, because I feel at home, I'm not gonna go through all these slides, so you guys could take the slides off. You could turn the slides off right now, because I'm gonna just talk to y'all, if that's okay. Can I just talk to y'all? You know, the conversation that I just heard, right? It felt like a real conversation about our humanity, not no fake stuff. And in those moments of discomfort, oh my God, it is an opportunity for us to step further into our humanity. Sometimes I think we think as a species that we're finished, that we are the end result. We're not done. What gives us the audacity to believe that we're complete? This work around equity and inclusion that we're engaged upon, it's not just to increase opportunities. It's an opportunity for us to be more fully human. Because when we unlearn racism and hatred, and when we unlearn the things that that dehumanize us, that's an opportunity for us to walk into something extraordinary. The book just gives us 4 ways that we can explore that, y'all. Just 4 ways. The first I call just a lens to a mirror. And as a sociologist, y'all, at UC Berkeley, I was given really good lenses to analyze and to point the finger and to look outward and to understand the world of misery and suffering. My work is around youth. But I remember the first time, y'all, and I'm gonna just tell you, the first time that I was working with young people, I created this summer camp that was creating a beloved community where everybody is loved upon. And I remember the first time that I did this camp, there was this activity where we have everyone talk about their pain and their trauma. And I remember this one moment, we were all on this grassy hill, and the young people were crying from their souls. They were crying because they were dealing with the things that had happened to them, and they were loved upon by all the adults. And I realized at that moment that the lens, that ain't nothing at UC Berkeley had prepared me for that. That there was something that I needed that was much more than my knowledge in my head, but it had to come from my soul, and that's mirror work. In my work at San Francisco State University, I remember I was preparing this class, and I was so proud of this course because I was teaching about youth, I was teaching about the camp. And after my first class, I was so proud, I did the lecture. I was like, yeah, boy, that was good. Get it, you smart, right? And I was all in my ego, and right, go boy, you know what you talk about. So after the class, I gave my lecture, I was like, okay, students, we'll see you next week. And this young sister came up to me. She said, Dr. Ginwright, that was a great lecture, but I realized that every reading that you had and everything you cited were male authors. My sister, Reverend Derica Blackman, when she teaches this, she said, yeah, I hear you, but that's exactly what I did. Yeah, of course, I understand, but the theoretical foundations of the course and the understanding just happen to be male authors, and y'all feel me? I hear you, but, and in that process, I silenced her. And it wasn't until I reflected and went deep, like what she said was true. And how many of us use I hear you but as an excuse not to grow? How many of us use I hear you but use that as a way to ease our discomfort around justice and equality? The book is called Reimagining Justice, Reimagining Ourselves, because the pathway to justice is not just laws and policies. The pathway to justice is us being more fully human. It's about us being more fully human. And it's about us really engaging in this mirror work. I call it a mirror work because a mirror don't lie, right? Everybody that got ready tonight gotten in the mirror, you brushed your teeth, you put your makeup on, and that mirror did not lie to you. It said, no, you still got a pimple there. No, them wrinkles are still there, right? I hear y'all in the front row. But the mirror work is hard work, y'all. It's the hardest look. The easy look is outward. The easy look is they should, but if if only they, right? That's the easy work to do. The harder work is to look within ourselves. Why am I feeling discomfort right now when I just got called out? Why do I feel this? Did y'all feel that when she said, I think this was a microaggression? Ooh, what a great opportunity for us to lean in some mirror work. Why do I feel discomfort, right? That is the real work. The real work is not just changing and including people to be on a stage. That's not the real work. The real work is to lean into, right? And is to put that mirror in front of our face and lean into it. The best way that we do mirror work is to have people hold mirrors up to us. Right? For someone to tell the truth consistently to us. And in telling the truth, sometimes, if we're lucky, we get to the moment of clarity. Now, there's a distinction between being clear and clarity. Being clear is the words. Being clear is articulate. Being clear is to communicate. But clarity comes from the soul. Clarity comes from something inside of us that shifts, that says, you know what, this is how I should be. And if we have good mirrors, right, if we have good mirrors in our lives, friends and colleagues and people and spaces that hold us sacred, then we can engage in profound and deep mirror work. This other pivot around transactional and transformative relationships is perhaps one of the most challenging pivots, because it requires that we be different with one another. In reading about the beloved community, we know that the beloved community is about belonging. And as Black folks, and as folks of color, and as trans folks, and as queer and gay and lesbian folks, we know deeply what it feels not to belong. We know that feeling of alienation. But the beloved community is this sort of mutual exchange of care and compassion and courage that binds us together in a way that says, you matter. And so when we talked about this panel here talked about sort of being misgendered, if I know your heart, man, if I know your heart, if I know what you're about, if I feel, in my community, the young people say, I feel you. You feel me? I feel you. That means it doesn't really matter what you say, because I got who you be. In my class just last night, y'all, at Harvard, there are a bunch of teachers, and they so damn smart, but they too smart, right? They just too smart. And so they in there, pontificating on all this, and one of, they got in this conversation last night about, like, what do you do in a situation when a kid cusses you out? What do you do in a situation when you have young people do that? It was all these situations. What do you do, right? And my response to them was, you've been trained really well what to do, but you don't know a damn about how to be. Yeah. You don't know how to be when a young person cusses you out. In fact, if you was being right, they probably wouldn't have cussed you out in the first place. But where do we learn how to be, where to be, y'all? Like, where do we learn that? It is in our relationships. It is when we have spaces of vulnerability. It is when we create sacred spaces when we can share pieces of our humanity that spill out on each other. And when I could share a piece of my humanity with you, that gives you permission to share a piece of your humanity with me. And that exchange of our humanity binds us together. But those spaces are sacred, they're fragile, they're delicate. But we all have them. We have them in our homes. Sometimes we have them in our spiritual communities. We need to think about having those in our workspaces. Those transformative relationships are possible. They're just scary and they're messy. They're scary and they're messy, but they matter and they make all the difference. When we engage in, and sometimes we are not even aware, we can't even get in touch with those pieces of our own humanity because we have been so transactional all the time, introducing ourselves or the titles that we wear. A transactional relationship ain't nothing but the title that you get as a paycheck, right? That's not who you are. Who you are is a human being that's searching, that's afraid, that's scared, that dreams, that hopes. That is pieces of our humanity. In the book, I interviewed Brother Benjamin McBride, and I think he has the most powerful quote. Because he says, oftentimes when the storms of life hit us, we ask ourselves the wrong question. He says, the first wrong question is, what do we need to do? That's the first wrong question. He says the right question is, who do we need to become? That's a harder question. In this journey of DEI with CSL, it's not always about what you do, it's who do I need to become? Who do I need to be in this moment of discomfort? Right? Those questions, those responses came out of, that didn't come from knowledge here. This comes from lived experience from people's heart. And when we can hold that in a sacred way, oh my God, now we are actually being more fully human. I think it was Howard Thurman that said that laws are limited in only that they establish the climate and the rules for some fellowship. But they are limited in that they cannot guarantee the spiritual and moral requisites for a beloved community. This must happen over time with moral practices that cultivate climate of grace and compassion. The third pivot, from problem to possibility. Woo, okay, I'm gonna have to take a little time on this one, okay? So, many of us, you know, how many of you have ever been to an arcade game? Remember an arcade? Remember when we used to go to arcade, you put the quarter in and you know, you did that, right? If you can remember doing that, what was your favorite game? Just yell it out. Pac-Man, Frogger, Pinball. All right, what was it? Whack-a-mole. Oh, whack-a-mole. That's the one I like, okay? So, Donkey Kong, I heard you, D. There was one called Whack-a-Mole, right? And Whack-a-Mole, remember Whack-a-Mole? It just popped up, boom, 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 boom. So how many of us is that's what our lives are like? Right? Consistent, persistent whack-a-mole. That our work lives are like that, our real lives are like that, and all we are doing is consistently and persistently solving problems. Many folks that fight and love justice believe that the fighting and the whack-a-mole is actually moving our way to justice. And while that's important, it's only half of the equation. Because we know from our spiritual leaders that Ella Baker and Dr. King and Gandhi also, we knew that the capacity for us to dream and imagine another world is just as important as the external fight. One of the greatest consequences of oppression is not blocked opportunities. One of the greatest consequences of oppression is not the removal of opportunities. The greatest consequence of oppression is that it erodes our capacity to dream beyond it. We can't see another way. And so being able to see another world, to see another CSL, to see another city, to see a different political environment requires that we imagine it first. And the extent to which we can do that, right, the extent to which we can practice that, it encourages us to talk and manifest and use the words that we want to see. I am so critical of my students that use words like anti-this, right? Anti-racism, and while that's important, we need to be anti-racist and decolonization and resistance, and all of these words and phrases are deeply important in our fight for justice. But we also need words around our capacity to imagine, our capacity to dream. And let me say one thing about this, y'all. And I know that you've had a conversation about weaponizing oneness. So this notion of possibility dream doesn't mean that I just need to dream and forget that there's structural racism. That I just need to imagine another world and all of a sudden all the misery goes away. No, it's not that, right? That we need to be able to understand that people's suffering and people's lived conditions are real, and that we need to respond to that. And, right, we need to learn that, it's and all in there. And we have the right to imagine and dream a condition beyond that. And we have the right to teach other people the same. When we did Camp Akili, the camp that I started, y'all, it was incumbent upon us to teach young people about the history and the structure of racism, but also give them the tools and the freedom to dream beyond it. And both of these things are important, right? Both of these things are important. The absence of something is not the presence of what we want. And so the health is not the absence of illness, and peace is not the absence of war and violence. It's something entirely different. We have to reimagine or reprogram how we're thinking so that we can actually do both at the same time. We could tie our shoe and walk at the same time. I guess that was not a good metaphor, huh? That one didn't work. That one didn't work, did it? Wait, that one didn't work. Okay, give me my pen. Where's my pen? Let me scratch that one off. You can't really tie your shoe and walk at the same time. That one didn't work. Okay, I won't use that one again, y'all. You got a pen? Okay, I won't use that one again. Hustle to flow. Pivot. Pivot. Y'all see that? You see that? I love y'all. I couldn't write this book in like 3 weeks. And it took more than physical time. It took me to settle in. I opened up that chapter, the first part of that, with a story that my mom and my dad used to read in a book called Where the Wild Things Are. And it starts off, it says, and Max sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day and into the night. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws, till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them. Capitalist culture breeds frenzy. Capitalist culture breeds frenzy, so much so that we believe that the more busy we are, that the more progress we're making towards justice. All of us are guilty of this, what I call an addiction to frenzy. It's not just we are frenzy, we got an addiction to it, meaning that we believe that the more busy we are, I'm important if I'm busy, right? I feel good when my plate is full. How many of you have a to-do list? Just raise your hand. All right, now if you have a to-do list, when you're done with something, you scratch something off, right? And you add 3 more things back onto that to-do list. There's this ongoingness of frenzy, our addiction to frenzy, that makes us believe that the busy we are, the actual more movement we have for justice. And that is false. And that we feel guilty sometimes. You guys, I put in this book this notion of a form of inequality that we rarely talk about, rest inequality, right? That we have different quality and duration of rest. And that all of these things have an impact on our well-being and our capacity to move these issues towards justice. I realized, and I settled into being still in an accidental way, Y'all gonna have to forgive me for this story a little bit, but I speak all over the country, and I have a really well-oiled machine when I go speak. I wake up at 5 in the morning, I get in the shower, I get clothes, and I get my suitcase, I head out to the airport on the plane by 8, and I'm out. This one particular morning, my wife was gone, and y'all should clap for this. We are empty nesters. Empty nesters-ish. My son just came back. So, okay, let me go. I got a minute left. So one particular morning, my wife was gone, and I had to get on a plane. So I got up, got in the shower, and I have the only person in the house, well, not a person, was my little dog, a little poodle. And so I was in the shower, and I could see my little poodle looking at me, staring at the door, but looking back at me as I'm in the shower like, hey, I gotta go pee. And so I'm like, dog, you don't see I'm in the shower? Wait. But the dog, I didn't want to go pee in the house, so I'm like, okay, let me just go and let the dog out. So I hop out of the shower, and this is gonna be a little graphic. Of course, I don't have no clothes on, I'm naked. And so I hop out of the shower to let the dog out, and I slipped on a step. And I came down, pow, on my back. And yeah, it hurt, it really hurt. It hurt so much, I tried to get up because I gotta get this plane, and my body said, sit your ass down. You ain't going nowhere. Deb know this because she remembered that morning. So I was like, oh Lord, I can't. I literally couldn't move, and I crawled. Now it's like 5:30 in the morning. I crawled over to my bed, got my phone, dialed my wife. The first thing she said is, what's wrong? I said, I can't move. She called the ambulance, and they came and got me, and took me to the hospital, and they x-rayed me. I had 3 broken ribs and a cracked vertebrae. And I asked the doctor, I'm like, okay, you still think I can make it to this speech? So now I had, it wasn't just that speech, because I had like 2 or 3 engagements a week. I was like ready. I was like getting ready to go talk to the crowd, and the doctor said, man, you ain't going nowhere for 6 to 8 weeks. I was like, 6 to 8 weeks? That was March 13th, 2020. Y'all joined me, thank you. Y'all wasn't going nowhere either. But during that time, we developed a different relationship with time. We slowed down because we had to. We took up hobbies. We got bored. Some of us got lonely. Some of us were like, I'm tired of looking at you. But we had a different relationship with time. And as we couldn't wait, for things to open back up so that we can get back into frenzy, right? So let's not forget the gifts that we got from that time of taking more time for ourselves, to sleeping in, to watching movies, to eating popcorn, to talking to your kids again, whatever it was. These are the things that matter in our journey for justice. I want to end with a quote. Do I have my quote here? Y'all gotta excuse me. Okay, I found my quote. This is a quote. I just really love this quote from Howard Thurman. He says, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." I deeply hope that these 4 pivots make you come alive and change the world. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all. Thank you.